Welcome back to the Through the Lane podcast. The NFL game's going on right now, Monday Night Football. It was an interesting weekend of sports. Robert Saleh, of course, was fired last week. We're probably going to see a few more head coaches be fired here soon. There was something else. Dante DiVincenzo back out in a fight with Rick Brunson, Jalen Brunson's dad. But we're going to start off with the NFL. We're going to talk about the biggest butt kicking of the weekend. The Cowboys. And I've said this before, and I think everyone's starting to come along. Dak Prescott's overrated. And this team is just not that good. Everyone will say, well, Dak Prescott put up all these stats. Well, how did he do in big games? He'd probably be the MVP if he played better in big games. They probably have more playoff wins if you play better in big games. He threw 2 picks, 17 to 33, only had 178 yards. It was just not good. It wasn't good. 2 fumbles. They turned the ball over 5 times. They just got bullied. Jared Goff threw for 315, 3 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 12 carries, had 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs had 12 carries for 63 yards. Craig Reynolds, who is that? Is that the backup back? From Kutztown, had 6 carries for 21 yards. Jameson Williams went off. Khalil Raymond had a big game. Laporta showed back up. It was such a big ass kicking that they were trying to get a offensive lineman to score, which was crazy. Sadly enough, though, Aiden Hutchinson destroys his tibia and fibula, which now exacerbates the need of a pass rusher. And I said this before, they need to go out and get somebody to put on the other side of him, and now they need to. I would, look at Clowney. I don't know what his stats are for this year. Probably not great. But he's got a shoulder injury, but let's look at last year. Last year he has, 9.5 sacks? I mean, he's not lived up to the billing of that top pick, the number 1 overall pick, but he's still been a very good pass rusher. He's had 4 seasons of 9 or more sacks. I mean, he looks good. I'd trade for him, and then another guy, and I know Adam Schefter talked about it on Pat McAfee today, and just didn't, but said it wasn't very possible. It would be Hassan Reddick. I'd go after Hassan Reddick. They threw around Max Crosby, and I know they're not going to give him up, or Myles Garrett, and Myles Garrett's not going to go. So you have to look at Hassan Reddick and Jadeveon Clowney. No one really else that where I'm like, yeah, go out and get him. Jadeveon Clowney has a history. He's not having that great of a year, but has a history of being a pretty serviceable pass rusher. I thought he'd be a good number 2 pass rusher because he can just go nuts on 3rd down. Aiden Hutchinson does his thing. But if you get Hassan Reddick, and I know it'd be hard for the Jets to part with him, and then you'd have to extend Hassan Reddick, but they have the cap space to extend Hassan Reddick. And if you imagine Hassan Reddick and Aiden Hutchinson on each side, that's scary. I feel like you pull the trigger on that. You give up Hendon Hooker. I mean, let's be honest, Hendon Hooker's not going to play much, if at all. He's a 3rd-round pick. He's 26. I mean, Goff's 29. He's 30. It's just Hendon Hooker's in his prime of his career. You send him to the Jets. I don't think Aaron Rodgers plays after this year. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the game that's going on right now. But I just don't. The Cowboys don't look good. The defense is bad, and yes, they're down a few guys, but Diggs is kind of like the Ron Bland. He gets a lot of picks, but that's about it. He gets, there's busted coverages all the time. It just doesn't look good. The defense isn't scrappy. I think it's more than it's been time for Mike McCarthy to get fired. It just doesn't look good. I mean, this team looks like they need a complete, maybe even a hard reset. Because, I mean, you knew you lacked talent at the running back position. And, I've said this before, I thought Trey Lance was the future. He had a terrible preseason showing. But if that confidence was that thin on him, then you cut him something or whatever, and you sign Derrick Henry, because that was like $10 million right there in Trey Lance that you can easily free up and give up. And then you wait to extend Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott should not have been extended. Now you're tied to his terrible contract, and he's going to be there for a minute now. And I mean, he looks bad, dude. He doesn't look good. 8 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. What? I mean, he had 9 total last year. The 2022, he had 15 on 23 touchdowns. He did miss a few games, but that still doesn't look good. Just none of it. He's had 3 good years in his 8-year career. Now that's pretty solid, but like, have they won anything? He's not the dual threat that he was before he shattered his ankle. Right, like, 2020 he breaks his ankle, and his running stats have been down since. So he's not dual threat. His QBR is 24th in the league, which is just not good. I think that Dak Prescott, and again, I want to say this, Micah Parsons is overrated. I know he's hurt now, but he hasn't done anything this year. This team just looks terrible. 47-9 is awful. Awful. But we're going to move forward. The rant. There was something else I wanted to talk about, but it's past me. But we're going to move forward to the 49ers Seahawks game. And 49ers won 36-24. Geno had 1 touchdown, 2 picks. They could not run the ball for the life of them. But the 49ers, they just keep unpackaging great runners. Isaac Guerrero, Jordan Mason goes down, and they have their third-string running back, Isaac Guerrero, go 10 carries, 99 yards. Because, why not? It's just stupid. Deebo Samuels goes for 100 yards. George Kittle catches 2 touchdown passes. I mean, it's just stupid. They don't get much of a pass rush, and I think that's a bit concerning. But this Seahawks team, they need a new quarterback. I know Geno Smith is Geno Smith, right? Great story. But he has 6 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's had 2 good years. But outside of that, wow, his rookie year, he had 21 interceptions to 12 touchdowns. That brother was bad. That brother was sacked 43 times. I think he's had a good late career resurgence, and he's made it back now. But I just don't think he's the future of this team. And they're just not. They're gonna be decent enough that maybe, because Carson Beck is sliding, that they get, let's say, a Carson Beck. But they're in a hole. I think the 49ers, if they can get Christian McCaffrey, are one of the better teams in the league. But the Seahawks, no matter where they go, they're mid at best. And kind of with the Cowboys, but the Cowboys aren't definitively better than anybody outside the Panthers. The Seahawks are better probably than a few more teams. Jacksonville, Titans. I mean, I'd say the Cowboys are better than the Titans. I don't know about Jacksonville. And man, that division's terrible. Chicago beat Jacksonville 35-16. Caleb Williams kind of broke out. DeAndre Swift had 91 yards. I mean, Evan Ingram came back. They had himself a game, but they still got blown out in London. I mean, Doug Peterson's got to go. He had 1 good year. Doug Peterson's got to go. We're seeing what kind of happened with the Eagles towards the end of his tenure, where he was just, the offense looks bad, and he's supposed to be an offensive guy. The offense does not look good. Chicago's growing. They're developing. I want to see if DJ Moore, what his level of impact. I mean, Mac Jones is playing darn near regularly now. DJ Moore had 5 targets, 4 catches for 20 yards. I mean, they do have an abundance of riches. Like, let's look at it here. So you have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, and Romeo Duzé. Then you have DeAndre Swift and Rashawn Johnson, who are both pass catchers out of the backfield. Then you have both backup tight ends, Mercedes Lewis and Gerald Everett, who have good reputations at catching the ball. Cole Kmet had 2 touchdowns. I just don't. The Jaguars, man, are just bad, dude. They're just bad. I mean, like, there's no two ways about it. They don't look good at all. Swift is starting to look better. I mean, they just don't. They don't look good at all. Arizona got just destroyed by Green Bay, 34-13. Josh Jacobs had 62 yards rushing. Trey McBride had himself a great game, 96 yards receiving. And Jordan Love had like 4 touchdowns. Yeah, 4 touchdowns. I mean, so he's back, obviously. And I said this before, when he threw 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, that's going to fix itself. But also, the brother's a gunslinger. So, like, he's going to throw picks. I think that division's insane. You've got Lions, Vikings, who did not play this weekend, so you kind of don't hear much about them. Bears, Packers. All 4, the Bears are fringe, but they're scrappy. Caleb Williams will keep them in games. But I said this before, Jordan Love's going to get the job done. He's going to fix it together. And he has so far. Then, next game, too, we're going to talk about 2 teams in the AFC South. And, I mean, this was just bad. Tennessee is one of the worst teams. I say the top 3 worst teams. Yeah, because 2 of them are in the AFC South. It goes Panthers, Jaguars, Titans. The Titans struggle to run the ball properly. They can't. The offense doesn't run smoothly. It's a crapshoot about every play. Will Levis is probably the worst quarterback, opening game starter in the NFL. And the offensive line doesn't look good. And this is the same thing that was last year. The offensive line needs to get better. You draft J.C. Latham, and it fixes one side, but it doesn't fix the other. He had 95 yards of total offense. Tony Pollard was all right. Tajay Spears just got 6 carries. Right? Trey Sermon, without Jonathan Taylor, the Colts can't run the ball. But Joe Flacco looks good. Michael Pittman somehow played. The brother was a candidate to go on IR and somehow manages to play, which is mind-boggling. Alec Pierce, after having 100 yards receiving last week, has 4 targets, 0 catches. I do think the Colts have one of the deepest receiving cores, and the issue is, can Anthony Richardson develop? And I'm worried he's trying to do too much, be too flashy. But in all reality, brother, you just make a play. You just get the ball in your hands of your receivers. Josh Downs is fast. Michael Pittman's a dog. Alec Pierce, you just throw it up and he'll catch it. And A.D. Mitchell, we don't know what he is yet, but he's got massive number 1 receiver talent. They've got 1, 2, 3, because I think Alec Pierce is number 1 receiver. Number 1 receivers, then you have Josh Downs, who's a complimentary receiver. He's similar to Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, I think, could be a number 1 receiver, but not consistently. Josh Downs I don't think he can be a number 1 receiver. I think he's a great number 2 receiver. But that's his ceiling of being a number 2 receiver. But yeah, I mean, Michael Pittman, I don't know how he played. Well, look, Calvin Ridley had 8 targets, 0 catches, and most of those targets came in the last quarter. Tyler Boyd, 19 yards. D-Hop, 54. I mean, Treylon Burks, this team is just bad. I mean, this is bad. You need a new quarterback so badly. And I think you would let Will Levis play because he was a second-round pick. But, you got to know now, 5 games in the season, he's not it. The brother looks terrible. He has yet to eclipse 1,000 yards. He's 30th in the league in passing yards. He's got more interceptions than touchdowns. He's only got 600, and it's not where he's close to having 1,000 yards passing. He's got 699 yards passing. He's 30th in the league in QBR. He is terrible. I mean, he is awful. And then he does this weird Spider-Man thing. My brother, you're trash. Stop taunting. You're garbage. You look awful. I mean, you just look bad. I mean, nothing about you look good. And this is a decent defense. This is a defense that could help you a lot. T'Vondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, Quandre Diggs, Harold Landry, Kenneth Murray Jr., Ladarius Sneed, Ernest Jones. I mean, Sebastian Joseph Day, Roger McGrady, Amani Hooker. I mean, and, like, let's not forget they have also what's his face. That safety. Jamal Adams. Now he's out, but I mean they still have Jamal Adams. You look at that, it's stupid. Arden Key. I mean, they also, on the left side of that offense, you have Peter Skoronski and J.C. Latham, 2 top picks. Outside of that, I mean, right tackle's an issue. Pierre Petit Ferrer just looks terrible. I mean, they have a deep receiving core. It's bad, dude. It's terrible. This is probably the second worst team. Maybe the worst team in football. Because with Andy Dalton, I think the Panthers are a lot better. But I want to talk about this game right now. The Jets are playing the Bills. It's 10-7. Jets are winning. This Jets team does not look good. Offensively, Nathaniel Hackett, I don't know what was the faith in him to bring him back. He did not look good in Denver. And I get it, he was good with Aaron Rodgers, but that's a younger Aaron Rodgers with Devontae Adams. You bail anybody out. You put me at OC, and I can make it look good. He's now there, and they don't look that good. Breece Hall's having himself a game tonight. But, I mean, again, Ray Davis, great game so far. 9 carries, 54 yards. Ty Johnson, 4 carries, 34. But you look at it, just doesn't look good. I mean, Mike Williams is not the same. Alan Lazard's old. Garrett Wilson, I said this, they don't have enough talent offensively. And defensively, I mean, they just struggle right now. They don't look. I will say this, Robert Saleh is the scapegoat. Who they get at head coach, it'll be interesting. Because it's not going to be Bill Belichick. He's not going to touch up the 10-foot pole. I don't know who you go out and get. The Bills, meanwhile, I mean, yeah, James Cook is out, but they look good. Khalil Shakir looks great. Keelan Coleman's going to develop. Don Kincaid is a really good tight end. And Dawson Knox used to be a top tight end in the league like 3 or 4 years ago, before they drafted Don Kincaid, which blew everyone's mind, but now we see it. Defensively, they're solid. I mean, Gregory Rousseau, AJ Espinonia, first or second round picks, pass rusher. Rasul Douglas, Taylor Rapp, Terrell Bernard, Terrion Johnson. I mean, this is a solid defense. And they just scored. Malik Collins caught an 8-yard pass. It's now 14-10. But Houston beat New England. Drake May looked solid. 3 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions. He got beat up a little bit, but, you know, Joe Mixon had himself a game. 13 carries, 102 yards, touchdown, 2 catches for 30 yards, and another touchdown. I mean, he looked good. I think that team is the best team in the AFC South. And I don't think it's anywhere close. I think they're one of the better teams in the AFC too, but just because that defense is going to keep you in games. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter each have multiple sacks. Will Anderson had 3. Like, hello? New England, I think, is going to be scrappier now because of Drake May. He can push that ball deep. The concern is, can he stay healthy? Will he be able to stay healthy? Can he survive that abysmal offensive line? Again, I think the play of Drake May puts them as the 4th worst team in football, but because Drake May is better than... I mean, there's 5 terrible teams. I mean, you look at it, and not in this order: Panthers, Jags, Titans, Patriots, and Browns. All teams that just suck. But Drake May looked good. And this next game was just confusing. Tampa Bay won 51-27. They were down 24-27 in the third quarter, and then scored 27 straight points. Spencer Rattler had a solid debut. Now, it's nothing eye-popping, but you're like, okay, he can hang. Like, he can play. They started 2-0, and now they've lost 4 straight. Chris Olave had another concussion. Rashid Shaheed had 1 catch for 11 yards. Cedric Wilson, I forgot. I didn't even know he was on this team. 2 catches, 28 yards. But I want to talk about the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. But Sean Tucker broke out. 14 carries, 136 yards, 1 touchdown. Bucky Irving, 14 carries, 81 yards, 1 touchdown. That's crazy. Also, they have Sterling Shepard. So you looking at this. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Sterling Shepard. You have Jalen McMillan, who was from the Washington team last year. That was pretty good. Bucky Irving. Sean Tucker had 3 more catches for another touchdown. I mean, the brother played great. He's like a second-round pick. She is fine, if you can hear her. She's being weird lately. But he's an undrafted rookie, or undrafted free agent, 2nd year in the league, and he looks good. He came out of Syracuse, and he's a dog at Syracuse. I mean, 1,000 yards rushing in 2 of the 3 years he played. He had double-digit touchdowns in those two years. And the brother's a dude. But, Philly barely beat Cleveland. And Nick Sirianni, I think Nick Sirianni is going to have to go because just the noise is going to get too loud. I think they just struggled to build with Nick Sirianni. I mean, Saquon Barkley led this game in rushing. He had 47 yards. This just was not good. I think Philly is a great team. You've got to figure out Jalen Hurts' turnover issue. But I think he can be, I don't know if MVP candidate, but he can be a top 10 quarterback in the league. I want to look at his stats. In 2022, he only threw for 22 passing yards. He had 13 rushing touchdowns. Last year he had 15 rushing touchdowns. He had more total touchdowns last year than he did the year before when he was an MVP candidate. But he had 15 interceptions with 6 fumbles. It's just interesting. I mean, Philly's in a seriously interesting predicament because you're winning, but everybody hates your head coach. The team does not look cohesive together. Lane Johnson said the offense is constipated. Like, what's going on here? In a good game, Baltimore beat the Commanders 30-23. Jayden Daniels probably played one of his better, cleaner games. He threw 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. They just could not run the ball. I think Jayden Daniels does not get the spotlight he deserves because Lamar Jackson already happened. And I'll say this, I think Jayden Daniels is a better passer than Lamar Jackson. But Lamar Jackson's a night and day better runner than Jayden Daniels. But I think Jayden Daniels, is, at least right now, the same passer that Lamar Jackson is right now, which is scary. But, I mean, Derrick Henry being on this team with Ricard, too, is just stupid. Mark Andrews finally caught his first touchdown. Zay Flowers popped off. But, I mean, 24 carries, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, that's just stupid. It's just stupid. Derrick Henry should not be allowed on this team. At all. At all. It's just stupid. The defense isn't as scrappy as it was last year. Dante Fowler had 2 sacks for the Commanders, but the Commanders are by and far away that best team, probably in that division. The Chargers beat Denver. The Harbaugh had a bit of a scare, and they had some weird dudes leading the team in receptions. Quentin Johnson was bad. I mean, he had 3 catches, 22 yards. McConkey had 4 catches for 43 yards, but Simi Fehako, 2 catches, 44 yards. I mean, Kimani, the doll. No clue who all these guys are. And then you still have Joshua Palmer, Will Disley, Stone Smart. For the Broncos, Devon Belly, again, the second time this season led the team in receiving. Troy Franklin's kind of popping out a little bit. Bo Nix led the team in rushing as well. I think he's going to be a very solid quarterback. He just needs a little bit more help receiving. They have no, you look, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and Devon Philly, Marvin Mims Jr., who, has not recovered. Oh, there's two Marvin Mims. He's just not showed the promise that he had at Oklahoma. And if I have time, we'll talk about some baseball on this episode. If not, I'll record an episode Thursday, and we'll talk about baseball. Because it's been a very good postseason for baseball. But Pittsburgh beat the Braves off of Vegas. Vegas is just an interesting situation, and I'm worried that Antonio Pierce is going to get fired for it. Just because this team is just, the offense does not look good, right? Offensive line's been an issue. Receiver's been an issue. Brock Bowers looks good, but they don't have a quarterback. They'd probably be a lot better if they had a quarterback, but they don't. It's just bad, dude. I mean, at some point, you got to get rid of Devontae Adams. This has got to stop. It's getting annoying, and it has to be draining in that locker room. But we've already talked about Detroit, Dallas. That's just old-fashioned butt whooping. Atlanta beat Carolina 38-20. Tyler Algier led the team in rushing. Kirko had a good game. Dante Johnson was the leading receiver in the game overall, 78 yards. Kyle Pitts had a touchdown, I think. Atlanta looks good. They're 4-2 now, number one in the division. Kirko has 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but he's still coming back. Bijan only has 3 touchdowns. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Kyle Pitts. Then Ray McCloud, who I can't even fathom the fact. Cordell Hodge, who, outside of that game where he just runs it in, has done jack squat. And they still need a pass rush. But this is going to be a scrappy team. I still believe they needed a pass rusher. But the last game, Cincinnati beat New York 17-7. T. Higgins led the team in receiving. Daniel Jones led the game in rushing. Joe Burrow only had 208 yards passing. Cincinnati's in an interesting situation. What are they, 2-4 now? You're in a hole. You're in a hole. I also want to talk about this, okay? Just looking at Jamar Chase's stats. Derrick Henry's got freaking 700 yards rushing. Because we're at the end of the games. We're going to go league leaders. Geno Smith is leading the league in passing yards. Kirk Cousins is 4th. Dak is 3rd. Brock Purdy's 2nd. Defensive leaders in tackles. EJ Speed. There was Gavin Cross. Not Gavin Cross, but something Cross. This DB for the Colts. Al Pierce somehow leads the team in. Let's just look at the Colts here for a second. Okay, they have 3 receivers over 200 yards. Al Pierce is one of them. Josh Downs has over 200 yards receiving. He's only playing 4 games. This team is deep. Adonai Mitchell's coming along slowly. You Cross. They're tied 3rd with 60 sacks each. Okay. That explains. But Robert Spillane, he's a dog. Logan Wilson, E.J. Speed, Zaire Franklin, Buda Baker, Nick Cross are the top tacklers in the league. Aiden Hutchinson had 7.5 sacks leading the league. But Dexter Lawrence, dude, he's having himself a year. And it's a shame he's stuck on the Giants with 7 sacks. Kyle Van Noy having some weird year with 6. Will McDonald having 6 and Max Crosby having 5.5. But Jordan Mason having 609. And the fact that he may not cross 1,000 yards rushing whenever Christian McCaffrey comes back is insane. But Derrick Henry having 704 is wild. So it goes 704, 609, then 485. And that's Chuba Hubbard. That's just stupid. That's just stupid. Nico Collins still has the lead in receiving yards after missing a whole week, which is wild. And then interceptions, Xavier McKinney has 5. Kirby Joseph, and we're going to dive into this game a little bit more. It's an underrated corner. He had 4 picks. Brian Branch has 3. I mean, like, what in the world is going on here? And we're going to look at the Lions, because I think the Lions are probably one of the better teams in the league. Probably like top 3 in the NFC. Jared Goff, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. I don't know if that's updated yet. No, it's not. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, the best running back duo in the NFL. It's just dumb. Jameson Williams leading the team in receiving yards, even though he's the number 2 receiver, breaking out. Tim Patrick being that wily veteran that just helps you make plays when needed. Cliff Raymond, who's a dog. I mean, then you look at this. Jack Campbell was a great pick. Brian Branch was a great pick. When was he taken? Like the 6th or the 2nd round? You know. Amik Roberson. I think they drafted him. No, he's drafted by the Raiders. But they brought him in this year. Great addition defensively. Again, I don't know why they didn't draft a pass rusher, but I already beat that dead horse. Hutchinson, 7.5 sacks. Great. Lynn McNeil was doing great up the middle. Kirby Joseph is underrated. Terrion Arnold looks solid in his first year. Derek Barnes going down as a travesty. James Houston, I think is going to be pass rusher that steps up. People forget that 2 years ago he had 8 sacks, and most, like 6 of those came in like 4 games at the end of the season against big teams. I think he had 4 against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. So the brother can play. He just can't stay healthy. I think he's a guy that you've got to look for. I mean, I'm a fan of him. I have him followed on ESPN, but that can probably be. I don't say number 1 pass rusher, but you put him like say you go out and you get Clowney, but James Houston and Clowney, and there's your pseudo pass rush. It's patchwork, but Hassan Reddick. I get it that the trade's not likely, but you've got to seriously look at this and be like, he's not happy where he is. We've got cap space. You put him and Aiden Hutchinson on opposing sides, and you've got one of the better pass rush duos in the NFL. You've got to make that move. But defensively, I mean, this secondary is good. And it's not because of the guys they drafted. It's because Kirby Joseph is great. Brian Branch is doing great. Carlton Davis is goated. Amik Roberson's good. Terrion Arnold now, he's doing good. But him and Rakestraw are both kind of rotating around. Rakestraw was like, that's a 2nd round pick. Again, they could have drafted a pass rusher. The Lions are good. It's probably one of the better teams in the league. But then you look at it, and you look at the Cowboys, who they just beat the dog crap out of. And they've got 463 yards rushing on the year. Average 3.5 yards per carry. Had 2 rushing touchdowns. 1 by Dak and 1 by Zeke. And the narrative that they're saving Zeke for the end of the season, he's got 38 carries, 115 yards, averaging 3 yards per carry. They ain't saving him for nothing. His longest run is 9 yards. Their longest run as a team is 13. That's just pitiful. Pitiful. That's terrible. Dak Prescott hasn't looked good. He's been sacked 16 times. Catching the ball. Jalen Tolbert, I was big on him last year. I think it looks good that he's developing and probably what they needed in number 2. But outside of that, Jake Ferguson's a good tight end, but it goes receiver, tight end, running back. There's no depth. I know you were looking at Brandon Cooks, but seriously, three guys. I just think they put themselves in cap hell, kind of like the Saints, where you're paying CeeDee Lamb, you're paying Lawrence, you're going to be paying Parsons, you're paying Prescott. You're paying that offensive line. So, what are you going to do? Diggs is overrated as it gets. Dak Prescott's overrated, and I will die on the hill. Micah Parsons is overrated. 4 games, 1 sack. I think Michael Parsons is better as a middle linebacker than he is as a defensive end. I mean, they've got to bye this week, so he might play against the 49ers, but yeah, 13 and a half, 14 sacks are great, but again, he's not done anything in playoff games, and he's been in the playoffs every year since he's been drafted. In big games, and I was like watching this towards the end of last year because I was like, why is the defense getting donkey kicked? Oh, Micah Parsons is getting driven 5-10 yards off the ball every play, and then he's pounding. I'm getting held, brother. Not every play. If you're as good as you say you were, get past it. Aaron Donald was the best D tackle and got past it. He's getting triple teamed. Like, I just think Micah Parsons just goes and cries on his daggone podcast. Listen to Ron Bland's tragic, right? But it doesn't fix it. It's not going to fix the issue. And this team is just not that good. They're overrated. Highly overrated. I said this at the end of last year. I don't think they're that good. I know something coming into the year. I just don't. I didn't like Dak. I don't like Dak Prescott as your quarterback. That's why I was saying Trey Lance is the future. But Trey Lance looks so bad that they had to give him that extension. And Mac Jones, maybe? But, like, what are you going to do? I just think the Cowboys are in a terrible spot. I think they're overrated in every way possible. Just don't look good. It's about halftime for the Jets game. And it's still 13-10. Ray Davis is having himself a game. The Jets are just not deep at all. Ray Davis, okay, I'm just going to say this. 10 carries, 62 yards, 2 catches, 50 yards. Brother, it's a backup running back. Like, hello? Do they have one of the better running back tandems now? They've sacked Aaron Rodgers twice, and this is bad. This is like where Daquan Jones played. He was in Tennessee for a while. But I think this is the issue. Aaron Rodgers is having left knee issues, and he's having left ankle issues. Why? Because he's taking a lot of hits. A lot of hits. And he's older, and he's not recovering like he once did. And I think you're starting to see where Father Time's catching up to him, and he just doesn't look good. But we're going to go to NFL Dudes of the Week. There's 6 of them. First off is Will Anderson. He had 3 sacks. He broke out, and I want to look at his stats on the year. All right, he has 5.5 sacks. He's tied for 5th. He had 7 sacks last year, so he's pretty much about to pass it. Like you knew, like Aiden Hutchinson. I want to look up Aiden Hutchinson's stats. He was going to start. You're going to have like he's not going to blow you away his first year. But he's like going to develop. I want to look at. I want to look at Aiden Hutchinson here. He had 9.5 sacks his first year, which is pretty good, but you know, both their second and third picks. But you knew that they could develop into like extremely elite pass rushers. And they have. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson had 11.5 sacks last year. He was on pace for a stupid amount this year. And now Will Anderson's having a more realistic year. Like what Aiden Hutchinson's doing through 5 games, 7.5 sacks is just stupid. But Will Anderson looked great. Second is Derrick Henry. We talked about his stats. Just stupid. Outrageous. Just no reason. It's just not fair. They should have vetoed that signing. Third is Jordan Love, 258 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's showing the rush has come off. This team's very scary because Christian Watson had a great game. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Latavian Wicks, Bo Melton. That's a good receiving core. They're all young too. All of them are on rookie deals. Number 4, Sean Tucker, 14 carries, 137 yards, 1 touchdown. I think he had a catch for 30 yards and another touchdown. Brother broke out. Had himself a great game. And they needed that because Rachaad White has not looked good at all. Fifth, Joe Mixon coming back from injury, 13 carries, 102 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 catches, 30 yards, 1 touchdown. Looked pretty darn good. And then sixth, just because of the ass whooping they put on the Cowboys, 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. The brother was insane. Now on to college football. Again, we'll pretty much just go over the bigger games. James Madison needs to have some respect put on their name and be ranked. I know they are 5-1. Who did they lose to? UL Monroe. But since they've lost to UL Monroe, that was last week. They won 30. So they scored more than 30. They scored 30 more points. 1, 2, 3, 4 times out of the 6 games they played. They barely beat Gardner-Webb, which is crazy business. But Alonzo Barnett is like 15 touchdowns and 1 interception. And I think he's a freshman. He's a sophomore. Good Lord, that brother's still developing. Okay? Pettyway, the running back, and Barnett's second on the team in rushing, averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Receiving, he's spreading the wealth around. 4 receivers over 200 yards. 6 guys over 100. I mean, that's just stupid defensively. I mean, I think the defensively showing that they just got promoted from FCS, but that's still great. And Coastal Carolina used to be really good. Now, the first game we're going to cover, Utah. Cam Rising was played into the game, and then he's out for the rest of the year with a leg injury. And I think this brother needs to give it up. It's pissing me off that he's still playing. Threw 3 picks. Did not look good at all. Sam Levitt, the guy from Michigan State, who I don't think played last year. Jeff Sims, that name looks familiar. He's a senior. Played at Georgia Tech for 3 years. That's why. And then Nebraska last year. They're 5-1. Arizona State's a problem. Better than Arizona, and who would have thought? Levitt, though, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And we'll talk about Arizona in a minute. But Cam Scatterboom, dude, I remember watching, because this game came on late. Cam Scatterboom, 22 carries, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's just stupid. Then 4 catches, 41 yards. I thought this brother was originally a receiver, because he'd line up out wide for half the time. He's just stupid. There's Utah. So this is what I have. There's recency bias in the rankings. Utah is now 4-2. ASU is 5-1. I want to look at the college football rankings. Right. I just want to look at the rankings. So it goes Texas, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. Ohio State dropped 2. They're still ahead of Georgia, which is insane. Tennessee dropped 3, and we'll talk about Tennessee. Yeah, no. Michigan, who is 4-2, is ahead of ASU. Getting recency bias. Ole Miss, 5-2. Like, I just think, would Michigan beat ASU? Possibly. But should ASU be ranked? Yes. 100%. I'm looking at the coaches poll, how it compares. Everyone had Ole Miss dropping. Michigan had Michigan drops. Nebraska and Army get ranked in that one, which is wild. But Navy's ranked and Army. Pittsburgh being 6-0 is crazy. Indiana being 6-0 is crazy. Last one that did that was Michael Penix. Kansas State's an issue. Tennessee falling. I like them at 11 more than I do 10. Clemson being 9th is wild. Iowa State being at 9 in like real time is crazy business. Actually, yeah, I like Iowa State 9, Clemson 10, Tennessee 11. But that's interesting. But yeah, Arizona State wins 27-19. Utah's now back up to their backup quarterback for the 2nd straight year. You just got to move on from Cam Rising. UNLV won 50-34, and they're now not ranked. Yeah, Malik Williams 3 passing touchdowns, 13 and 20. But it's mainly the running game. They had ran for 3 touchdowns, and Malik Williams was not one of them. Ricky White was goated, honorable dude of the week. Iowa State is just... They've got Spencer Petras. I mean, 461 yards. He didn't throw the ball a lot, but he's a senior. And he's been at Iowa. Iowa wish they have him right now because the brother can sling it. But I digress. Now, first game, we're not really going to go into this one much. Texas beat the dog crap out of Oklahoma. And I think Oklahoma was just... They're down like their top 6 receivers, and it's terrible. They don't really have a great running game because Gavin Sawchuk is not that good of a running back. Javante Barnes is mid, and Taylor Tatum's mid, right? So you're down all these receivers. Defensively, like, there's not, like, just standout dudes. It's just a great scheme by Venables. You lose 34-3, right? And it was mainly just Silas Bolden had a touchdown, Quinn Ewers had a rushing touchdown, and Wisner. This guy, I don't think... He got half his yards this season from this one game. I have not seen him because it's been Jarrett Gibson and Jalen Blue. Wisner. I feel like I'm missing a dude, too. Archie Manning still leads the team in passing yards, which is still... Wisner is now leading the team in rushing. They've got 3 backs that can just go after you. The Ewers didn't look great, but, I mean, still look pretty good. Blue... Gunnar Helm led the team receiving. You also have Ryan Wingo. Who's that? Is he a senior? Freshman. Yeah, he's a highly recruited freshman. You have Dante Moore, Matthew Bolden, Isaiah Bond. I mean, like, this game was gassed up. And I know they did this because of past history. That this is going to be a great game. When, all reality, we knew this was going to be a butt kicking. Like, we knew. Because Michael Hawkins is all right, right? Like, he has 1 passing touchdown. He's a true freshman. He's got a rushing touchdown. And that all came against Tennessee. Because looking at this, Jackson Arnold had 7 passing touchdowns. I don't know what you do at quarterback there. I really don't know what you do. Because Arnold is obviously more talented, but he looked like he just was... Like, he didn't know how to play against Tennessee. But, I mean, this team is so bad. Do you bench Michael Hawkins again? Not again, but do you reinsert Jackson Arnold? But probably the game of the... There were so many... 2 weeks ago was the game of the upsets, and then this weekend was the game of the almost upsets. Right? And now we're going to talk about this. Will Howard made the dumbest decision in the world. I don't know why you slide to end that game. Dylan Gabriel, though, looks great. He fits this style. Jordan James... He's been there for so long. It's his 3rd year, actually. But he was good last year. Travion Henderson, he's still there, was the leading rusher for Ohio State over Quentin Junkins. He's a senior. Yeah, 1,000 yards his freshman year. That's when they played Georgia. It was hurt the year after. Last year he was pretty good. And then they bring in Junkins. And this is a talented backup. Jeremiah Smith and Emmanuel Buka is stupid. They also have Cardinal Tate. Defensively, they're all right. But, I mean, Evan Stewart, who came over, was a highly recruited receiver, comes over from A&M to Oregon and has 7 catches, 149 yards. Tess Johnson looked good. It was a good game. I was sad I didn't get to watch it, but both quarterbacks played well. It was what you wanted to see, gunslinging. Just, taking shots at each other. And I think Oregon outcoached Ohio State towards the end of that game. With the decisions Dan Lanning made compared to Ryan Day and where he put his team compared to Ryan Day, you could just tell who was the better coach. In my opinion. Now, next, again, almost upsets. Unranked USC, which is wild. No, they are 3-3, but they've had an insanely tough schedule. Barely loses to Penn State 33-3. Drew Allard threw 3 picks. I'm not high on this guy. He throws 43 times and he has 391 yards. I hope he does. Tyler Warren, though, went stupid. 17 catches, 224 yards, a touchdown. This is a tight end, and he's a senior. He's going to be a highly drafted tight end because this guy looks good. He also threw a pass for 9 yards. Woody Marks looked good. Quentin Joyner had 3 carries for 82 yards, a 75-yard run. USC, but Penn State's a pretender. USC, man, they're fighting hard. They're in their games every time they play. Georgia barely beat Mississippi State, 459 yards from Carson Beck. Arian Smith had 5 catches, 134 yards for a touchdown. Kirby Smart pushed Michael Van Buren. Michael Van Buren looks good. Beck threw for a lot of yards, but threw a decent amount of picks. Anthony Evans, the receiver, was the leading rusher. I mean, this was a game where you're kind of like just watching, like, okay, no way that Mississippi State puts themselves in this game, right? Like, this is not going to happen. Thankfully, did not, because I did not need that. South Carolina threw another game. I mean, South Carolina finds new ways to lose. Well, Noah Sellers is good. Like, he's solid, right? He's obviously a redshirt freshman, second year playing. And you can see it. I call him Inspector Goggles. Milroe threw 2 picks. He's not looked good. The running game has not looked good for them. Like seriously, I don't know if Vanderbilt found something, if Georgia showed something in the second half of that game, or what. I don't know what's happening. Ryan Williams was held to 32 yards receiving. Jeremy Bernard had 4 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. It was just stupid. Niak Haber, this like insane freshman who's really fast, or sophomore. He's got a 99 rating, speed rating at 40 yards. I mean, this they just tried every reason. Kyle Kennard had 2 more sacks. This brother can rush the passer. I would not be shocked if you see him jump up draft boards as a day 2 pick. But yeah, Lenore Sellers fumbled the ball twice. I mean, like, what's new? He does it like an option, and he goes to pull it, and the ball just drops after they just picked off Milroe, and you're like, what are we doing here? And maybe this is Beamer. Maybe this is on Beamer. And I like Beamer, and I hope he sticks, but brother is just not doing too well. Tennessee barely beat Florida, and I'm going to go on a rant about Tennessee. They're overrated. They were overrated. This offense struggles on third down. I said this when they barely beat Oklahoma, that they were 4-15 on third down. That's not going to cut it. They just every game, Oklahoma, then you play Arkansas, and then you play Florida. And Oklahoma, you barely beat by 10, and Oklahoma has a terrible offense. Like, we know they were down 4 of their top. They're down their top 4 receivers then. Okay, and they made a QB change mid-game. Right? You beat them by 10, 25-15, and people are saying Josh Heupel let off the gas. Okay. No, we're going to go in Arkansas. You get beat by Arkansas. You don't score that many points, right? The defense is good, but you don't score that many points. So what happened to letting off the gas, right? Like, is this an issue? Do we not like to put our foot on throats here at Tennessee? And then you barely beat a Florida team that I can't understand. Billy Napier's got to go. I mean, my boss, Dan, was like, I hope they don't win because Billy Napier keeps his job. And Florida, like, Tennessee did not win the game. Florida lost the game. And DJ Lagway made a heck of a play on 4th down to even go to OT for it. Then just the false starts, the penalties, just and bad play calling where you're getting the ball where you can just lose yardage and you're getting further back. And then you miss a field goal. I mean, Florida did anything possible to lose this game. Florida actually outgained Tennessee offensively, passing the ball, and were even rushing the ball. They had 22 first downs to Tennessee's 18. They had 361 yards to Tennessee's 312. They had 223 passing yards to Tennessee's 169. Nico's supposed to be the Heisman, right? Then you rush for 138 yards to Tennessee's 143. Tennessee's offense is overrated. And I think it came out that if you keep Tennessee's receivers in front of you, if you just play deep and you let them go ahead of you, they're not going to make big plays. If you have good linebackers, you can stop the run, which they did up until late into that game. They stop the run. Tennessee has a pedestrian offense. Nico kind of panics. I mean, he threw another pick. I mean, we're looking at it and you're like, okay, so he does struggle under pressure. And they don't really have a great receiving, like this receiving core where you're not like, wow. Squirrel White took 5 catches, 71 yards. Chris Brazzell, 3 catches, 49. Chas Nimrod, 1 catch, 16. Dante Thornton, 1 catch, 11 yards. Dylan Sampson, and I've said this before, if Dylan Sampson did not exist and was not on the Vols, this team is terrible. This offense is bad. 27 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's got like what? 15 rushing touchdowns this year. It's because he's a dog. He's a top 5 running back in football right now, in college. He's going to be a second-round running back because running backs don't go in the first round now. I mean, the brother's good, but Nico hasn't played well. They're just not good. Deshaun Bishop looks good as a freshman running back. The brother's picture is terrible. They done him dirty. And let's be honest. If Graham Mertz does not get hurt here, they win that game. But they sputtered out of the game with DJ Lagway. Now they kind of came on towards the end, but they struggled hard. And what I found was funny because DJ Lagway has 765 yards, and like 500 of that came in that shellacking they had. A few weeks ago. All right. Where they beat Sanford and he threw for 456 yards and had 3 touchdowns, right? He completely was 2-2 to start like early in the game because they're switching quarterbacks but Billy Napier's like, wait, we have a chance with this with Graham Mertz. We're not switching quarterbacks. And then Graham Mertz gets hurt and DJ Lagway. His first play is a pick. And the momentum changed. If he doesn't throw first play pick, this is a different game. I just think Tennessee's overrated. Nothing on their offense doesn't scare me. You put them in 3rd and medium or 3rd and long, they're terrible. Even 3rd and 3, multiple times where they could not convert. I just don't think they're that good. I think 11 is where they belong. I just think it is. I just think Tennessee being Tennessee. I think 11 is where they belong. Next, in a thriller after that game, LSU beats Ole Miss, and again, Ole Miss is a pretender. And Ulysses Brantley the 5th came back after, and Henry Parrish still doing good. Henry Parrish does 612 rushing yards, and he's kind of the backup running back. So he started out at Ole Miss, transfers to Miami, and comes back. And he's been a very solid running back. He has 9 touchdowns already. But Brantley started the year as a starter. He's a senior too. This is his 6th year of football. And he's been hurt a lot lately, but Trey Harris did good. Caden Lee. Kyron Lacy, though, went nuts. Aaron Anderson went nuts. Caden Durham is now the number 1 running back. And he, like I said, went against South Carolina. He broke out. That's why he's the dude of the week. Nussmeier can sling the ball with anybody. Got 18 passing touchdowns, almost 2,000 yards passing. They found a defense. Swinson had 2 sacks. Major Burns had a sack and a half. And Ole Miss could not find a defense. After they brought in all those guys. Walter Nolan hasn't done that much. I just don't think this team's that good. I'm not thrilled on it, right? I think Ole Miss and Tennessee were pretenders. I think LSU's better than Ole Miss. And LSU may be better than Tennessee. All right. Clemson beats the Dog Breaks off Wake Forest 49-14. Notre Dame beats up Stanford 49-7. Iowa State beats West Virginia 28-16. And this game, Arizona started off great, but BYU beat them 41-19. Arizona started the season off great. Noah Fifta, who looked great as a freshman, has 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. It's becoming an issue. He's thrown more interceptions this year than he did last year. And I don't know what's going on. BYU looks good. I mean, they look very solid. Jake Reslov looks good. McMillan still looks like the top receiver in the draft class. And he has 742 yards receiving. But it's just, I don't know what's going on with Arizona at this point right now. I just don't. Boise State beat Hawaii. And this is probably the last game that we'll cover. We'll look at a few towards the bottom, but yeah, this will probably be the last game we cover. Northern Illinois won. What is Northern Illinois' record? 4-2. Look at that. But Kansas State beats Colorado, and this was a game. Travis Hunter is dinged up for most of it, but Shedeur Sanders throws for 388 yards, 3 touchdowns. They can't run the ball worth a rip. Amari Miller just showed up, 8 catches, 145 yards receiving. They kept Jimmy Horn quiet. He's not been that good this year as a senior. It's just sad. I don't think it's in him. They hyped that brother up to be a good number 2. But, you know, Travis Hunter gets dinged up a little bit. He still had a tackle. Shiloh was solid. B.J. Green had 2 sacks for them. But J.C. Brown for Kansas State had 6 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Giddens, 25 carries, 182 yards, and then had 2 catches and 38 yards. That brother's just, I think he's one of the better running backs in the league. I think right up there with Ashton Jennings. And I'll do my Ashton Jennings rant towards the end. But yeah, Kansas State's a bit of an issue. I know they had that weird loss, but I think they're a bit of an issue towards teams. They're ranked what now? 17th. They moved up 1 spot. That is atrocious, but okay. Missouri beats Massachusetts. Pittsburgh barely beats Cal 17-5. Oh, and this is another game. Illinois beat Purdue 50-49, and Ryan Brown had himself a game for Purdue. 297 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 17 carries, 118 yards rushing. But then Illinois had their quarterback 379 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, then 10 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. He went nuts. That conference is going to be interesting as it all shakes out as the year goes on. But yeah. Vanderbilt beats Kentucky 20-13. Diego Pavia. I mean, it's not a great showing, but they're still getting a W. 2 scrappy teams. Vanderbilt's now 4-2. I think their over/under on the year was 2 wins. They've already blown that out, which is crazy. Syracuse beats NC State, and I said this before. With everyone's like, "Well, they're a ranked team. NC State's not that good. They're 3-4." Kyle McCord threw for 2 more touchdowns. He's got 19 touchdowns on the year. He's got 2016, 160 yards passing on the year. That's just stupid. But that's it. Jackson Dart leads college football in passing. Then Cam Ward, McCord, Shedeur, and then Josh Hoover for TCU. What is Hoover? He's a sophomore. He was there for that run they had. Okay. I got rid of that one guy that was supposed to be good. Sacks-wise, for San Diego State, Trey White leads the college football with 11 sacks. Kyle Kennard is 4th. Virginia Tech's pass rusher is 5th with 7. Boston College's Donovan, I'm not even going to say his last name, had 9 rushing yards, or 9 sacks. Rushing yard-wise, Ashton Jennings by a mile has 1,200 yards rushing. Then you have Caleb Johnson, who has 937, which is crazy in its own right. And then Omari Hampton has 901 yards rushing to himself. Then DJ Giddens, and then Cam Scatterboom. Ashton Jennings, and I'm going to say this now, if he doesn't win Heisman, it's crazy. He's putting up better numbers than when Derrick Henry did his year through. He's played 5 games, 6 maybe, and he got 1,200 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns. He's about to pass last year's standards. Averages 9.9 yards per carry. It's stupid. It's stupid, and it makes no sense. And he deserves the Heisman all the way. I mean, there's no business why he shouldn't be the Heisman. Receiving yards wise, Trey Harris is about at 1,000 yards receiving this year. Nick Nash is second, and then McMillan's third. Interceptions wise, UNLV's got 2 guys with 4 interceptions, which is wild, and then Cal's got a guy with 6, which is even dumber. But going on towards the end, college football dude of the week. First off, Tyler Warren. I said this: 17 catches, 224 yards, 1 touchdown. Just a dude. It's his second appearance. 224 yards is crazy, all right? Then Ryan Brown for Purdue, 297 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 17 carries, and 118 yards rushing. Then the opposing quarterback, Luke Altmaier, 379 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 10 carries, 60 yards, 1 touchdown. They were just gunslinging it out, going nuts against each other. Then Arian Smith, 5 catches, 134 yards, 1 touchdown. Went insane. That wasn't insane, but that was big. With Colby Young getting arrested for being an absolute idiot and being suspended indefinitely, they needed it. DJ Giddings making his the 3rd appearance, 25 carries, 182 yards. Rushing, 2 catches, 38 yards. And then Shadir Sanders, 388 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. And then last but not least, Cam Scatterboom, 22 carries, 158 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, and 41 yards. Thursday, because it'll be start fall break, I will have a baseball episode out. But that is all for today's episode. Thank you for watching.